I think I regret switching job. Well, let me explain. So, I used to work at a great company. It was my second job after college. I think by that time I had 1 year of experience. So I joined and it was really good. But the thing is, something that's weird, you don't know how good something is until it's not no longer here. Uh, because it was the first company that I joined, that means I had taken time to grow and I've built a lot of things internally at the company. And and yeah, so a lot of the system I've actually written them. And I worked there for a good 6 years. So here's the thing. Sometimes when you're switching job, you don't think about some of the downside of the switching. So I think after this experience, I get some insight that I don't think I was aware, or I don't think anyone explained this thing to me when you're switching job. And maybe when I go over this video, I can explain it to you so that if you're in a situation where you need to switch job, you kind of know what to expect. It's even worse if you've been at a company, let's say 5 years or 6 years, and then you're switching to another company. There are some hidden things that you may not have been aware of and that you discovered until after you switch. So in my case, because that was my first company, so that's where I learned most of the software engineering stuff related. So I joined as a junior engineer, got promoted to a mid-level engineer, got promoted to a senior engineer, to a point where I was performing at something I would call a staff level engineer at that job. Because by that time, within those 6 years, I've built something that sometimes is way more important than the technical skill that is very hard to see, but at that time I was not aware of it. All right, let me explain what I mean by that. You see, there's something called trust and something called reputation. This thing takes time to build, and no amount of being smart can replace it. And I think that's where I kind of wasn't expecting this to happen, that it takes time to build trust. It takes time for people to vet for you. So one thing I noticed that I had in my previous job was other people who would talk on on my behalf positively in rooms that I was not even aware existed. So apparently, it seems like in companies, the managers sometimes has those rooms where they go sit and talk about the employee during review cycle. And I think for me, it was because by that time, I've worked with so many people, I helped so many people. It was easy for me to build this thing that was invisible to me, but other people could see it. And that thing is trust and reputation. So even though I was performing at a staff level engineer at that time, but I think what pushed me to with that job was, I think one day one of the higher up leader was talking about how, okay, here at this company, we don't really value paying the engineers, and that we value more the community, and this is a good place to work. But I was young and stupid, so I went in and checked out what is the salary or external, what is the market is willing to pay for people with my skill. And because of my curiosity, I realized, oh my God, I was underpaid by so much money. And I think that was the motivation for me to get a new job somewhere else. Uh, the next location paid me about 40 or 50% more than my previous job. I think at that time I was blinded by the money, which if you are young, I was like in my mid 20s and you're making above six figure and stuff. So when you see money that's coming, you take it. I think I did not take into consideration that switching job may potentially mean I am going to slow down my career projection. In a sense that even though I was performing as a staff software engineer level on my previous job, something I realized is that being performing at a staff or above at different company mean different things. It was a awakened realization that, oh, maybe for company A, you are a staff engineer, but when you're company B, in those specific subset that they're doing, you're probably not performing at a staff engineer level. And that's where I think this kind of opened my eyes into something. Maybe people talk about it, I was not aware of it until after that experience. Is this idea that you may be doing great in job A, you switch in job B, you're doing an horrible job, even though you're doing the same thing. And that's where sometimes it has to do with perception. It has to do with, how you carry yourself. It has to do with how many problems that you save for the company. Because whenever you switch to a new job, you start with a clean slate. This is good in its sense, but it also can be bad. It took me a while before I could get myself to a point where I could start behaving the same way I used to behave before at my previous job. But it took me years. It's not something that happened like very fast. I had to slowly relearn the new company's way of building software. I have to try to build the trust that I had before, and I'm still fighting this up to now. I think some of the limiting thing is at my previous company, I was physically in the office. The working from home thing, it wasn't a thing. In the new company, I'm working remotely, and it genuinely takes way more effort to build stuff. Not like building software, but to build that community and to build that reputation takes a very long time. And usually, as you getting further in your career, these things are way more important than your ability to fix hard problem. And that was the kind of like awakening thing that made me regret switching job. But at the same time, I'm not gonna lie, the money was good. The new money that I'm earning is way better than my previous job. I have less authority. I have less say so, mostly because, you're the new one. You need to prove yourself first, which is something I didn't know. Even if you have the right credential, you have the right everything, but you need to prove yourself in the field before people can really trust you with things and people can trust your judgment and decision making. So in that sense, these are things that you need to take into account when you're switching job. Uh, Software engineering, the way you solve problem, sometimes from company A, you may solve the same problem, get the same output, but company B may need their code to be put a certain way. They might have certain nuanced way of tackling things. And those things, no book, no education, no external certification can learn it. You cannot learn this thing only on the job. And the hardest part is that a lot of those things are not transferable from job to job. And this is something that I never thought. In my mind, I felt like, hey, I'm already performing at a staff level at my current job. I should join the other company. And then was expecting I was gonna hit the ground and running. I hit the ground and running from the technical perspective, but the building the social capital, the building the impact on external team, getting your name out, this is way more difficult. At least not more difficult in general, it's more difficult for me because I'm not someone who is very happy and go make friend just to make friend type of person. But I feel in my previous company, where I've been here for 6 or 7 years, I was not reckless, but I was a little bit more energy, right? I was younger. So that means if there is an outage at 2 a.m., I would jump into it, fix it, and then go about my day. And then the next morning I'm fresh. Now I'm older, sometimes I don't I don't have that same level of energy to go and pick things. I felt like that might be some of the thing I did in the past that maybe my teammate didn't like because I was always ready. But now that I'm older, I can see why. So, in that sense, I wanted to share this just so that you can understand that if you've been in a company long enough, it's okay to switch job, but be in the mindset that when you switch job, even though you have the right technical skill, and also because you went to an interview, people believe that you can do the job. The hard part is to be building this community, building that reputation at the new company, building that reliabilities and making sure that you are the go-to person for specific system. Those are very valuable. Uh, I was young, I did not know. At my previous job, there are certain systems. If they are having issue, they just call me and then the issue is resolved. I was the go-to person for specific system. In my new job, when I joined, it seems like I have to create my own system, or I have to really read and then spend a lot of extra time. These are not technology related. These are more, I would say, social things related, and I have to put a lot of effort into it. So tell me, have you had that experience where you work at a company, then you switch job, and then you realize things are way harder than they used to be or they're supposed to be? For me, now it's been a couple of years since I am at the new company. I start to make some positive impact. But in my mind, I felt if I stayed in the previous company, I may have had a better title. I would probably still earn less money. So I am ambivalent about it. Uh, Earning less money for a nicer title, or earning more money for a less, like a title like not as shiny. That's pretty much it. Share your experience at the bottom. Tell me, have you had this happen to you before? How did you handle it? And yeah, I hope to see you guys next time. Bye.